Britain's entire system of building regulation is not fit for purpose, says a peer leading the review following the Grenfell fire in June. Dame Judith Hackitt has been looking into the rules governing building and fire safety in the wake of the disaster, which killed 71 people when a fire tore through the West London block. The tragedy raised fears that the use of dangerous material on high-rise buildings was widespread. Dame Judith today said there needed to be a culture change is needed to ensure building safety comes ahead of cost concerns in the construction industry. She wrote in her introduction to the report, "This tragic incident should not have happened in our country in the 21st century. We now all have the opportunity to respond in a way that will lead to lasting change that makes people safer in the future." Dame Judith said a focus on cost-cutting was one of the factors flagged up by her investigation. It is suspected that pressure to drive down the price of refurbishing Grenfell Tower led to cheaper, flammable material being installed on its exterior. Unless we achieve that culture change where people are doing things because we believe and we are all committed to making buildings safer rather than simply doing things at least cost and so on, those are some of the changes in culture that need to drive this, rather than newer and simpler regulations. She said it was essential for her to address the clear systemic failings rather than just changing small details. Otherwise, the peer said it would be like adding a paint job and decorations to a fundamentally non-roadworthy vehicle. Downing Street called Dame Judith's report was an important milestone. Asked if high-rise block residents are safe given the damning findings, the PM's official spokesman said, "My understanding is Dame Judith herself was clear that her findings shouldn't be interpreted as meaning buildings are unsafe. More than 1,250 buildings have been checked and building owners have put in place remedial measures where they felt they were necessary to ensure residents are safe." The report stated that the current regulatory system for ensuring fire safety in high-rise and complex buildings is not fit for purpose. It set out reasons including the current regulations being too complicated, confusion about who is responsible for different aspects and the inadequacy of assessing the competency of key people throughout the system. Other issues highlighted were the fact that there is no difference in the qualifications for people working on high-rise and complex buildings, compliance, enforcement and sanctions processes are too weak and the system of product testing, marketing and quality assurance is not clear. And predominantly in regards to Grenfell where residents had raised numerous concerns, the report says that the route for residents to raise and escalate concerns is unclear and inadequate. Local Government Association Chairman Lord Porter welcomed the findings, saying, "Today's interim report reinforces our warnings about the complexity and confusion in the current system of ensuring buildings are safe, so tragically exposed by the Grenfell Tower fire. The government needs to endorse the report's findings without delay and work with councils and the industry to take the process of reform forward in the way Dame Judith has set out. This will obviously need to include rewriting the documents relating to the installation of cladding and insulation on external walls of buildings so they are easier to understand and comply with. What happened at Grenfell Tower can never be allowed to happen again and no one should have to live in fear about their safety, be that in the buildings they live in, work in or visit." John Healey MP, Labour's Shadow Housing Secretary said that ministers needed to act quickly rather than waiting for the final report. He said, "It is now 4.5 years since 2 coroners' reports into previous high-rise fires recommended an overhaul of building regulations. Ministers ignored the recommendations then and their promise to issue new regulations was never honoured. Rather than waiting for the final report of this inquiry, ministers should start acting on existing recommendations immediately and incorporate recommendations from Dame Judith Hackitt when her inquiry is completed. Ministers have been off the pace at every stage in response to the Grenfell Tower fire. They must now quickly give people confidence that our system of fire regulation has the clarity, accountability and proper standards needed so that no one feels unsafe in their home."